Good afternoon and welcome to this brief training about the use of the Google Drive desktop application for macOS. So, you've logged into your computer. You see a pop-up that looks a little bit like this, and it's telling you to sign in. But you use Google Drive on the web. So what is the desktop application for Google Drive? Well, the Google Drive desktop application gives you access to all of your Google Drive files, both online streaming and also locally on your computer, straight from the desktop and using Finder like you already use to access files stored on your computer. So, let's take a few minutes and talk about Google Drive. If you don't have Google Drive on your computer or you don't see this pop up, you can always open the self-service app and click the install link underneath Google Drive for desktop, and that will install it to your computer. Once installed, you'll be able to find it from your applications, and it'll be listed as Google Drive, and you can just double click that and it will open. So we'll go ahead and leave this here. Let's go ahead and sign in. If you're already signed in, it will allow you to continue signing in. And now you've signed in. When you close the window, you can see in the status bar at the top, Google Drive is loading your files. It takes a minute, and finally it gets it updated. So now we know that all of our files are up to date. Everything that change that we've made online or locally, or if we've uploaded files, is ready to go. That's what this activity screen with the blue check mark means. Let's take a look and see how to access Google Drive from within Finder. So here's our Finder window, and we now see Google Drive. And we see both my drive and all of the shared drives to which we have access. So this is, again, a super useful way to quickly access your files. If you want to open things up, you're able to quickly open those directly from within Finder, even though they're not downloaded to your computer. So you saw how snappy that was. It's just like having the files on your computer when you're connected to a high-speed internet connection. You can also do the same thing with shared drive. So to give you an example, I have a handful of files here that are guidebook IDJs that I need to archive. And so I know that they go online into a shared drive called DASATech Strategic Partners in our operations folder for guidebook. And I need to put those into the billing area. And you can see I don't have them there. Now traditionally I could navigate on my browser and drag and drop those in. And that would work great. But I can also manipulate files using the Finder window. So let's try it that way. Let's go in here, operations, and guidebook, and we see our billing folder. And I can just drag these right in. You'll see a progress indicator showing that they are uploading. And when that's done, they've been completely uploaded to Google Drive on the web. Now this varies based on the file type and how big it is, but you'll see very quickly as they're updated, it updates live for you in the browser as well. So now I can access these same files here. If I make a change to the name for this, let's say, for example, I want to rename this file. I can do it on the web, and I can say 2022-07-08. Okay. And when I look here in Finder, this file will update to the new naming convention as soon as it gets the indication that it's making a change on the web. So there we are, 0708. So you can see it keeps everything in sync. But let's say I want to keep these files available offline. You'll notice that there's a little icon next to each of these files and folders that looks like a little cloud. And that says that these are only stored in the cloud. If I want them to be stored offline, I can pick an individual file by right-clicking on it, and then I can say offline access, available offline. And notice that that changes to a little green check mark. And that says that it's downloaded the file onto my computer. It still keeps it synchronized, but I'll always have a local copy of it. Now that's really useful if you are traveling and you're going to do a presentation and you want to make sure you have access to it, but you also know that you need to keep it in sync with the online version because you may be making some changes, right? If you have this offline version, it's going to make sure that even if it's a Google Drive file, you will have access to it. You'll notice as well that once we made it an offline file, we see that the offline file available offline icon appears in the web browser as well. And that lets us know kind of what we have available offline. You can also do this with folders. So I can come back in here, offline access, make available offline, and notice that same icon appears next to our folder, and it will cascade down and also include all of the files within this drive. So you can see here that now both have the icon saying they're available offline, and in Finder that will update in a moment to show us a green check mark there as well. So this is one of the reasons why this is such a great tool. One, you can work with your files in either a web-based platform or you can do it right through Finder. Two, it keeps everything synchronized for you. Three, it gives you access to offline copies of your files. That's a really powerful way to make sure that you are taking control of all of the files that you're working with. The nice thing is, it's a lot quicker to navigate through the Google Drive interface here than it is sometimes on the web. And so if you need to make lots of changes or you need to rename lots of things, well, Finder has a lot of built-in tools that help you do that, and this allows you to take advantage of those. So let's take a look at what shows up in the activity area. So again, we see these green check marks. We see that they're synced. We don't have any notifications, but we do have some options that we can look at. So let's click the little gear and select Preferences. We can actually sync files from our MacBook directly to our folder on the web. So if I wanted to, I could come in here and I could say Add Folder, and let's say I wanted to have my Zoom folder synchronized online. And I can say sync it with Google Drive. Boom. That's now going to sync with Google Drive. In Google Drive, hang on, we need to hit save to make sure that we commit that change. With Google Drive, we have a chance to do two options at the macro level. We can stream files, which stores all of the files in the cloud, or we can mirror files, which means it's going to keep the files in the cloud and download it on my computer. I don't recommend that you use mirror files because Google Drive has an enormous amount of storage space. If you click mirror files, you might fill up your hard drive really quickly. And it also kind of negates the reason why you would use something like Google Drive as an external drive for your application or for your files. Finally, you have a couple of options here as well. A lot of folks don't have the option of working exclusively in a Google Drive format. So for example, they can't use Google Sheets because they need something built into a Microsoft Office format, macro perhaps, that helps them send data or receive data from systems on campus. The real-time presence in Microsoft Office, when checked, allows you to see when somebody else is editing a shared Microsoft Office file in Google Drive. So that's super helpful if you have to stay within the Microsoft file formats. And the rest of this shows some technical information in here, and you can certainly go through and play with this if you want to. So for example, if you have photos, you can keep them in the original quality. If you have raw files that you want to preserve, you can actually upload the raw files as well into Google Photos. Just keep in mind those are generally much larger photos. Or you can use Storage Saver, which is going to give you a slightly reduced quality version of it, but save on the upload time. The most important thing that I think is that you have this Launch Google Drive on System Startup checked. Now that's the default, so you don't need to go in and make a change to it. But it is something where if you feel like you have to start this application over and over again, go and make sure that that's checked. The last thing that's in here is information about the download rate and upload rate if you wanted to limit those things. But again, the defaults for the application are quite good. If at any time you no longer want to use your Google Drive application, all you have to do is click Disconnect Account. And when you click Disconnect Account, it's going to tell you that once you do that, you will no longer have local access to the files that were on the web, and they'll give you some choices for what to do if you've made certain files offline accessible, but they won't synchronize anymore. So just know when you go to disconnect, read the pop-ups that come up with that, and you should be good to go. So I hope this has been a really helpful video for you to learn how to use the Google Drive desktop application for macOS.